Yes, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Built-in Buffalo live tailgate pregame show. I am your host, Arich Hakeem Richens. If you don't know me by now, if you don't know us by now, please get to know us. We are Built-in Buffalo. This show is presented and sponsored by Picasso's Pizza. Amazing pizza, amazing day, amazing time to be a Buffalo Bills fan, right? All the ups and downs that we've had endured throughout the season in this marathon of the season, none of that matters now. It all starts in the second season today, Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're watching on Facebook, please give this a like, give this a share. If you're watching on X or Twitter, please give this a like, give this a repost. And if you haven't subscribed to the Built-in Buffalo brand on YouTube, please do so. And please give us a like if you're watching on the Built-in Buffalo YouTube channel. Now, we all know the trials and tribulations the Buffalo Bills had throughout the course of the season with injuries and coaching mishaps and coach firings, and Sean McDermott had a hit piece out on him by the reporter. I'm not going to name his name. It was a lot of stuff that the Buffalo Bills had to endure even before the season started, right? Stephon Diggs and the hoopla with him and what's going on between him and Josh Allen. What's going on between Stephon Diggs and Sean McDermott? What's going on in training camp when Sean McDermott had miscommunication with Stephon Diggs and he missed camp for a day? All of that is now a wash because the Buffalo Bills, who was at one time 6-6, when everybody written the Buffalo Bills off, when they was 10th place and they was 11th place, and you watched all the media outlets make fun of the Buffalo Bills, we had all the media guys that said the Buffalo Bills wasn't good enough, and they was able to turn it around starting at Arrowhead in Kansas City, 6-6 in the month of late November, in the month of December, once again proving that the Buffalo Bills are built for late month football. They prove that they can rise to the occasion, compound victories, and win big games. Sean McDermott proves, the Buffalo Bills proved that they can win close games in the nature that they won them against Kansas City, against the Chargers, went to Miami and beat Miami, clobbered the Dallas Cowboys. Throughout all the Buffalo Bills turmoil that they had throughout the course of the season, they sit in second place. They sit as the AFC East champs. They sit with the game at home, or maybe stand, with the game at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we know that the game pushed back. It was supposed to be Sunday at 1 o'clock. It got pushed back to today, Monday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it looks like it was a good move, right? The weather conditions, no matter what the people were saying on the outlets, no matter what Pittsburgh Steelers fans were saying or Miami Dolphins fans were saying, no matter about all the soft shit that we've been hearing throughout the other fans, it didn't matter. It proved that this was indeed the right move. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Pittsburgh Steelers at Buffalo Bills. And I know everybody's excited. Rick, what's going on, Rick? You was on here before saying go Bills. Sandra, what's going on? Let's go. It's time. It's our time. John, shout out John. Shout out everybody for being in the chat. We have over 100 people in the chat right now. I'm pretty sure y'all are just as excited as I am, correct? So let's get started. Initial thoughts on the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tell me, y'all let me know in the comments. I'm gonna shout y'all out. Y'all let me know how y'all feel in the comments. Are you confident? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you anxious? Where is y'all temperature at for this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers? And my initial thoughts, man, once again, William and Mary, right? Once again, Sean McDermott, Mike Tomlin, the William and Mary alumni collide once again. And you would have thought that William and Mary was a Power 5 conference, the way they produce talent within the coaching tree, right? I just spoke about Sean McDermott and Mike Tomlin. Let's not ignore Joe Brady, who's a part of that William and Mary tree. Let's not ignore Alan Williams, the former defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears before he got into whatever the hell he got into with that scandal that he had to be relieved of his duties, right? You have Luke Rhodes, and the list goes on for William and Mary alumni. They produce very good coaches over there. So if you want to be a coach, if you are up and coming coach, if you're a high school kid or a college kid that is looking to aspire to be a coach one day, maybe you should look into William and Mary, right? But weather conditions, execution, right? Can the Buffalo Bills offense execute under these weather conditions? And can the Buffalo Bills defense stop the execution of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense in these conditions, right? There's a lot of things that we have to look at. Can we limit mistakes in these weather conditions? Now, the Buffalo Bills, we're already a mistake-driven, a mistake-prone team as it is, right? The Buffalo Bills tend to make mistakes. And when they do make these mistakes, they tend to compound on those mistakes. So when you have weather conditions like this involved, it is something to be concerned, right? We have to be a little concerned right there. Are we up for the challenge? The Pittsburgh Steelers are a physical football team. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a physical football team in the trenches. So a couple of things that they're going to test from our Buffalo Bills, and that is mental focus, right? You have to have mental focus to be able to execute your play under these conditions, catch the ball under these conditions, complete a successful handoff under these conditions. Mental focus will indeed be key. And toughness and physicality will also be key in this football game for the Buffalo Bills. Toughness and physicality. We all know the Pittsburgh Steelers are a tough football team. We all know that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a physical football team. We all know that the Buffalo Bills, let's call a spade here. We all know that the Buffalo Bills struggled with physicality and physical football teams in the past. Are they ready for it today? And I think they are. I think they are ready for that toughness and physicality that's going to be shown upon them by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I look at Brandon Beane, right? I look at Brandon Beane being the GM. You have to look at Sean McDermott as well, being the head coach. But the Buffalo Bills have been good for some time, right? We are a 4-time defending AFC East champs. We've been in the playoffs. Younger folks are used to watching the Buffalo Bills play good football and be in the playoffs and play impact meaningful games in January. But this is why I look to Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. We've had finesse teams in the past. That's my opinion. We could agree to disagree, but the Buffalo Bills had finesse teams in the past. That's why they struggled against New England Patriots years ago in that win game. That's why they struggled in their weather elements, because they was built as a hot weather team or a West Coast team that was built to fling the ball around the yard. And when they got in these weather conditions, when they got in these elements, they tend to struggle. But this year, I believe the Buffalo Bills are more prepared for these weather conditions than ever before. This is why you go ahead and draft a physical guard like O'Cyrus Torrence. This is why, even though he's injured, you go ahead and sign a Damian Harris, a tough runner between the tackles. This is why the Bills have Latavius Murray and Leonard Fournette. This is why they have bigger backs and bigger guys, Greg Edwards, that can be physical and be able to play in any type of conditions. If it's hot, we can play how we normally are accustomed to playing. If it's cold, we can buckle up and railroad you as a defensive front with our physical offensive line and be successful in these conditions. So I believe the Buffalo Bills are more prepared to play in these conditions more than ever, more than these other teams that the Buffalo Bills had in years past. Let me get some thoughts. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We had 80-something people in the chat right now. Shout out to everybody. Sandra believes. Jeannie says, our running game is stronger than anyone give us credit for. That's exactly right. And you have to give the Buffalo Bills some credit. They are top 10 in terms of rushing attempts per game. They made a cognizant effort to run the ball this season. You saw the consistency, especially when Joe Brady came into the fold, right? We saw the consistency with the run game. We saw an identity by having the run game. And I think the Buffalo Bills are built for this weather, are built for this moment, are built for these conditions more than ever. Trey says Buffalo has got the wants. I definitely believe so. But again, the Pittsburgh Steelers normally, right? This is the type of weather conditions that they would probably thrive off of. This is the type, even though it's still nervous time, it's still one and done, it's still playoffs, win or go home. Pittsburgh Steelers are more accustomed and more built for these conditions, especially the type of offense they have, right? Especially the type of team they have. They are built for these conditions. But guess what? We are just as built for these conditions and to play in this weather as the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me move on. Let's get to know the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit, right? Because when you play in a team, you have to know who they have. You have to know personnel. You have to know what they endured some throughout the course of the season that makes them a viable opponent today. They are here for a reason, right? So getting to know the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mason Rudolph, he comes in. The Pittsburgh Steelers look to be real, and the Pittsburgh Steelers look to be the outside looking in the playoffs. Kenny Pickett got hurt. Mitchell Trubisky, the former Buffalo Bills quarterback, who knows? He may be the backup. He may come around full circle and be the backup for the Buffalo Bills. He may back up Josh Allen next season, Mitchell Trubisky. But nevertheless, he was able to have an opportunity, and he wasn't successful. They went ahead to bench Mitchell Trubisky. In comes Mason Rudolph, the third-string quarterback, goes 3-0 for the Pittsburgh Steelers and saves their season. And you have to salute, first Mike Tomlin for making the move. It's not a fluke that a head coach has had a winning record in 20 straight seasons. It's not a fluke that Mike Tomlin has had a winning record in 2 decades. That is not a fluke. He understands how to coach. He knows what buttons to press and when to press those buttons. And because of that, we are facing the Pittsburgh Steelers today. Najee Harris, 1,035 yards on the season, 8 touchdowns. Najee Harris, third year in the league. He is now 3 times eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark, and he also has 29 receptions on the season. This is not a guy where he's looked at as he's just a big running back that's just could run between the tackles. He's capable of catching the ball out the backfield, being that he has 29 receptions on the season. You look to his counterpart, Jaylen Warren. He's come a long way, right? He has solidified himself as a viable number 2 option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 784 rushing yards on 149 rushing attempts. That is good for 5.3 yards per carry. So Jaylen Warren, he is the change of pace back. He is the guy that is capable of taking it to the house if he gets to that open field. He possesses that agility. He has some shiftiness to his game, and he has the speed to take it to the house. He's also the second leading receiver in terms of receptions on the team. Jaylen Warren has 61 receptions out the backfield. So the Buffalo Bills have to be mindful of that. The linebackers, Terrell Bernard, Tyrell Dotson is inactive because of the shoulder injury. I expect Balin Spector to come in and play good football like he did last week against the Miami Dolphins. But you have to be aware of where Jalen Warren is and when he's coming out the backfield, because Mason Rudolph, especially being a third string quarterback, right? He's going to look to have a security blanket in his tight end. He's going to look to have a security blanket in his check down passes with Jalen Warren. And he showed throughout the season that he is indeed capable. Both Pittsburgh Steelers running backs have over 1,100 scrimmage yards, which in my opinion is pretty damn impressive if you ask me. When you have two running backs, not one, but two, that have over 1,100 scrimmage yards. So you definitely have to be aware of where the Pittsburgh Steelers running backs are at all times. Their leading receiver, George Pickens, only 63 receptions, but he leads the team. 63 receptions, 1,140 yards, 5 touchdowns. Say what you want about George Pickens, he is a problem. I know there was some things that went on earlier during the season where he didn't block for Jalen Warren, but talent aside, George Pickens is a very capable receiver, and he's shown that time in and time out, especially in the latter part of the season when the Pittsburgh Steelers needed it most. And the Buffalo Bills cornerbacks, they have to be aware of George Pickens. He is the type of receiver that is going to put a cornerback on his ass if you're not careful, if you're not aware. So George Pickens is a threat not only in the passing game, but in the running game as well. That hiccup he had with Jalen Warren, not blocking for him to get to the end zone, ultimately losing that game, has made him a better football player today. And George Pickens is the leading receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Move over to a guy like Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson, is his hands inconsistent at times? Maybe. But there's no denying his speed. We saw it on a slant play against the Baltimore Ravens last week where he took a 7-yard slant, 70 yards to the house. So you have to be able to tackle this guy when you have the opportunity to tackle him, because if you miss a tackle on a guy like Deontay Johnson, if you miss a tackle on a guy like Jalen Warren, they are more than capable of taking it the distance. 51 receptions, 717 yards on the season for Deontay Johnson, and you can't ignore the tight end as well. Pat Fairmouth, he scored that touchdown in the preseason. Now, a lot of people will say it's the preseason. I understand it's the preseason, but they did have success. The Pittsburgh Steelers beat us pretty soundly in the preseason. None of that matters now, but Pat Fairmouth showed that he is capable of being a security blanket at the tight end position, even though he only has 32 receptions and 308 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season. He showed earlier this season against the Cincinnati Bengals that he is more than capable with 9 receptions, 120 yards in that game. And a guy like Mason Rudolph, who is a backup quarterback, you have to be aware of where the tight ends and the running backs are in this football game, because Mason Rudolph is going to look to his check down. Mason Rudolph is going to look to his security blanket in his tight end. So we have to be aware of where these gentlemen are at all times, right? And the Steelers, like the Buffalo Bills, made a change at quarterback, at the offensive coordinator position. And like the Buffalo Bills, the Steelers offense has been better since making that change. November 21st, 2023, Pittsburgh Steelers fired offensive coordinator Matt Canada after losing to the Cleveland Browns by a score of 13-10. They fired Matt Canada because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they struggled to score points. They didn't score a point. They haven't had a 30-point game while Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers in a season, in 17 games, a full calendar year. The Pittsburgh Steelers failed to score 30 points under Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator. The Pittsburgh Steelers failed to get or eclipse 400 total yards of offense while Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they had more alarming times on offense with Matt Canada than the Buffalo Bills had in their struggles with Ken Dorsey. So it was necessary for them to make that change. And now Since the Pittsburgh Steelers have made that change, they have become a better offensive unit. They now have an offensive coordinator tandem of two guys, Mike Sullivan and Eddie Falker. Eddie Falker was the running back coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He now formulates the game plan throughout the week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So basically what Eddie Falker does is he looks at the Buffalo Bills defense. He looks at the game, he looks at film room, and he's the guy that's going to find the weaknesses. He's the guy that's going to find opportunities for success for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then what he does after his findings, he relates that over to the quarterback coach, now offensive coordinator, now calling plays on game day, Mike Sullivan. And Mike Sullivan is going to call the plays to exploit the Buffalo Bills defense based on Eddie Falker findings throughout the week. And it's been working for the Pittsburgh Steelers thus far. Since taking over 7 games, the Pittsburgh Steelers have 2 400-yard games of total offense. They have 1 game where they had 397 yards of total offense, and they have 3 30-point games. Let me repeat that. The Pittsburgh Steelers in 7 games with this offensive coordinator tandem have 3 30-point games. The Pittsburgh Steelers failed to score 30 points in 17 straight games in an entire calendar year, in an entire season under Matt Canada. And this offensive coordinator tandem comes in 7 games, 3 games over 30 plus points. So they're doing a pretty damn good job, if you ask me. Right? Now, moving over to the defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, TJ Watt is obviously a big loss. I hope he gets healthy and he's ready for next season. I don't wish injuries on anybody, right? But it's definitely a huge loss for Pittsburgh. His ability to sack, disrupt the quarterback, and make plays for the defense when the defense needed most will be sorely missed for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 19 sacks for TJ Watt for the regular season. The second leader in sacks for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Alex Highsmith, second on the team in sacks with 7 sacks. So that's definitely a considerable drop-off. Don't get me wrong, they still have other players. Minkah Fitzpatrick, just alluded to Alex Highsmith. They got Cameron Hayward. They definitely have capable players that is very good at their jobs. And if you let them be physical at the point of attack, they can get the best of you. But losing a guy like TJ Watt is definitely a big loss for the Steelers. And hopefully the Buffalo Bills will be able to take advantage of that. Last but not least, Pittsburgh Steelers are allowing 19 points per game. 19 points per game, which is 6 in the NFL, right? So all the struggles that they have with the quarterbacks, all the inconsistencies they have with the offensive coordinator position, the defense has kept the Pittsburgh Steelers in ball games, and that is a major reason why we are facing the Pittsburgh Steelers today. So getting to know the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit. Let me get back into the comment section before I move on. Once again, Arich, Hakeem Richens. If you don't know me, if you don't know us by now, we are Built in Buffalo. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Charles, yep, Lenny's not playing. They have that faith in Latavius Murray. And good news. Another good news is Ty Johnson must be ready and available to play. And that's good news because Ty Johnson is the second best running back on the Buffalo Bills. And in my opinion, Ty Johnson is the most consistent running back for the Buffalo Bills. So even though playoff Lenny is not on the active roster, I think the Buffalo Bills will be fine at the running back position. Marianne says, I don't think they put him on the team this game. We'll see. Who is him you talking about? Kathy says, this game before it's even started has me so stressed out. Bills 24-17. It's nervous times, Miss Kathy. It's definitely nervous times. This is win or go home for our Buffalo Bills. And, you know, we've been here a few times well, right? We've been at this point where it's been a Super Bowl or bust type feel for our team. We want to get to the Super Bowl. We want to hoist that Lombardi trophy. And it looked bleak early in the season when guys like Daquan Jones go down and guys like Matt Milano go down and guys like Trey White go down. These are not slouches. These guys are not slouches. They're one of the best players on the team, and they're one of the best players in the NFL, respectively. So when guys like that go down, it's definitely a loss of confidence at that time. But for the Buffalo Bills to overcome what they've overcome, and for Daquan Jones to come back and to get Rasul Douglas for this game, I think will be tremendous for the Buffalo Bills. Even though Rasul was out for this game, I think those are tremendous gets for the Buffalo Bills, getting Daquan Jones back. Sean McDermott has now went from being a coaching liability late in games to successfully navigating his way as a head coach, pressing the right buttons, calling the right plays, have his defense in right advantageous situations and spots to be successful. Moving on, right? Let's talk about some keys to the game for the offense. Keys to the game. And let me know some of y'all keys to the game. How do y'all feel? What the Buffalo Bills must do offensively in order to be successful against the Pittsburgh Steelers under these weather conditions? Even though it looks like the crew, the shovelers, and the Buffalo Bills crew on the field, the stands might be another story. I don't know what's going on with the fans at the stands. If they are able to sit, if they have to stand the whole time, that's another story. But the on the field conditions, they seem like they've done a good job. I spoke to my guys, Lance. Shout out to the Built in Buffalo Tailgate crew. I spoke to my guy, Lance Nelson. He said that the conditions is fairly good for as far as weather right now. Obviously, things can change, but right now is good. And the field, how it looks, the conditions, it looks pretty well. So congratulate them for the Buffalo Bills crew and the Buffalo Bill locals for having a successful playable field for the Buffalo Bills and Pittsburgh Steelers to play on. But keys to the game, offense, right? When the Steelers defense bends, the Buffalo Bills have to make sure they break. And what I mean by that is scoring points. The Buffalo Bills have to score points when opportunities presents itself. When they are having successful drives and they're driving down the field, they have to turn that into touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is ranked 19th against the run, right? That's the bottom half of the league, you could say, right? 32 teams, 16 is half. They're 19th. That's bottom half of the league. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 17th against the pass. Now, don't get me wrong. They're very opportunistic. They get turnovers in terms of interceptions. I believe they have 16 interceptions on the season, but 17th against the pass is average at best. But what the Pittsburgh Steelers do well is they keep teams out the end zone. They are 6th in the NFL in points per game allowed, only giving up 19 points per game on the season. That is a classic bend but don't break defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So today, the Buffalo Bills have to bend and break that defense by scoring points, preferably touchdowns. Steelers' inconsistent QB play, inconsistencies due to offensive coordinator position, and still they're in the playoffs. Why? It's because of that opportunistic defense. It's because they're able to keep guys out the touchdown and keep their offense in the game long enough so they can make enough plays to be successful and ultimately win the game. The Buffalo Bills, when they bend the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they have to break it by scoring points, right? Let me get some thoughts on that. Yeah, Tracy, like they control the weather. The stands look a mess, but the field is good, so we're okay there. Definitely. Tracy, after the Steelers been calling us soft and talking shit about New York being weak and the game being rigged, they made may they meet their karma because we are Buffalo strong. Absolutely. Absolutely. We are definitely Buffalo strong. Let me take one more comment here. I got Tracy already. Let me go up. I appreciate everybody in the comment section as well. It's definitely an exciting time for the Buffalo Bills. My boy Thomas Cook, Royal detailing blowout city. Won't be close, Mafia. I hope so, right? I hope so. I love the confidence. We should be able to have success, sustain success, and be successful against the Pittsburgh Steelers team with our home crowd and home field backing us up. But we have to go out there and prove it, right? Definitely have to go out there and prove it. Getting back to keys of the game, right? When the Steelers bend, we have to break them. Next key to the game, and this one concerns me a bit. Limit turnovers, mistakes, and penalties. Let me repeat that because we are the Buffalo Bills. Limit turnovers, mistakes, and penalties. The Buffalo Bills offense is 7th in the NFL in penalties, averaging 6.2 a game, right? The Bills fumbled the ball 20 times this season. 20 fumbles for the Buffalo Bills this season. Josh Allen leading the way with 7. His counterpart, James Cook, has 4 fumbles himself. On top of that, Josh Allen, I love him. I think he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the best. I believe he is an all-pro caliber player, even in this season, despite the turnovers. But he does have 18 interceptions this season. So when you fumble the ball 20 times, and when you have 18 interceptions, and when you're 6th in the league or 7th in the league, averaging 6.2 penalties per game, in these weather conditions, it can be a tad concerning. On top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers have forced 19 fumbles in their own right. On top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers have 16 interceptions in their own right. So even though they're not a great defense statistically in terms of pass and rush defense, they are an opportunistic defense, and they will take away the football if you're not careful. So the combinations of the Pittsburgh Steelers being an opportunistic defense and the Buffalo Bills being prone to mistakes and penalties does draw some concern. So mental focus is going to be a key here. It should be a point of emphasis throughout the week. Playing sound fundamental football should be the point of emphasis for the Buffalo Bills throughout the week. It should be a point of emphasis in the huddle. When you call in plays, somebody, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Ty Johnson, James Cook, hey, these guys are opportunistic. We know the weather conditions isn't the greatest out there. Hold on to the football. Be aware, be cognizant of that. We have to hold on to the football. We have to limit mistakes and penalties, because this right here is what's going to keep the Pittsburgh Steelers in the game, if I'm going to call a spade a spade. This right here, if we do this shit right here, it's going to keep them dudes in the game. So we have to limit turnovers, mistakes, and penalties. Taking care of the football is a major point of emphasis for our Buffalo Bills. Let me get some comments in the comment section. Let me get some comments. Tracy said, yeah, man, we definitely have to limit. We have to limit those. We have to limit those. And this is a game when it's win or go home, when it's a playoffs, you want to start here. You want to start in this second season. This is now a second season. This is a time where you can forget about that first season and rewrite the script. Now in this second season, we need to be known as a team that is limiting our mistakes. In this second season, we need to be known as a team that can take care of the football. In this second season, we need to be known as a team to play sound, fundamental football. And if we can execute those things, it would definitely heighten our chances of beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, Gabe Davis is out. Talking about the inactives a little bit. Rasul Douglas is out. Tyrell Dotson is out. So we have Taylor Rapp is out. So we have some key contributors that was successful last week against the Miami Dolphins that is out for this game. But again, shout out Brandon Beane for the building the depth on this team. Shout out Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott I want to know, is Cam Lewis active? Is Cam Lewis active today? He should be. He is a pretty sound football player for the Buffalo Bills. He was a cornerback, transitioned to safety. He may need to step up this game. Bale Inspector did a tremendous job last game against the Miami Dolphins. He filled in beautifully. I know AJ Klein is called up and he's activated for the game. So is Andy Isabella, but I do not expect AJ Klein to be the starter. I expect Bale Inspector to be out there. He's younger, he's fresher, he's faster, he has more tread in those tires, and he's a smart, high IQ player. And he showed that against a Miami Dolphins offense that is a very good one, that is first in the NFL. So I have to shout out Brandon Beane for having the depth that we have. Now, again, you don't want to have Rasul and Rapp and Tyrell Dotson out for a significant time, or Gabe Davis out for a significant time. We're going to ultimately need those guys to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. But for this game, for this situation against the Pittsburgh Steelers, we should be able and more than capable of beating this team, even though we have those injuries, right? So how about Elam? Davis says, how about Elam? Time to step up. Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't know if this is going to be a rotational thing, though, right? I think that Dane Jackson did an excellent job last week against Tua and that Miami Dolphins offense after he gave up that play to C.J. Wilson. Early, he bounced back and he played tremendous football. This is the playoffs now. It's not going to be much rotation on the back end. Will it be some rotation between AJ Klein and Bale Inspector? Maybe, right? But just like in basketball, you shorten the bench in the NBA playoffs, right? And the Buffalo Bills and the NFL is kind of like the same thing. You want to shorten that bench. I don't know, even though I do expect, because of just the numbers game, I expect Dane Jackson Kaiir Elam to possibly be active, but I expect Dane Jackson to take the bulk of those snaps. The only way I see Dane Jackson or Christian Benford or Micah Hyde or a lot of these players for that matter coming out is if, God forbid, injury, or they need a play where they need a spell. They need some rest. They need a play or two to get back. But I expect Dane Jackson to play the duration of the game for the Buffalo Bills on that back end. Let me get into, now once again, Rich Hakeem Richards, Built in Buffalo Tailgate Live. If you don't know us by now, please get to know us. Let's go over to some keys to the game on the offensive side. Keys to the game, let's go to some keys to the game on the defensive side of the ball, right? Keys to the game defense. Now, once again, let me get your thoughts. What do y'all think are the keys to the game defensively for the Buffalo Bills? And I got a couple. I got two to be exact, right? The first key to the game is stopping the Steelers' rushing attack, right? Stop the run. The Buffalo Bills must stop the run against the Pittsburgh Steelers in order to be successful defensively in this game. And shout out Daquan Jones. Shout out Daquan Jones for coming back from that tricep injury, and now he's fully healthy. Thank God he is available and able to play in this ball game because we're going to need him. Last season, the Cincinnati Bengals came up to Buffalo and beat the Buffalo Bills by the score of 27-10. The reason Cincinnati won that game is because they won the battle of the trenches. The Cincinnati Bengals that season, all season long, was a porous running team. They averaged about 3 yards or 3.2 yards per carry. The Cincinnati Bengals came to Buffalo. Joe Mixon came to Buffalo and rushed for 20 attempts, 105 yards, and a touchdown. That, ladies and gentlemen, that cannot happen. That cannot happen this game for the Buffalo Bills. You cannot make another AFC North team come in our building and run the ball down our throats. It can't happen. It's unacceptable. And if it does happen, we are in major trouble. We have to stop the Steelers' rushing attack. The Pittsburgh Steelers are ninth in the NFL in terms of rushing attempts per game. They average 28.6 rushing attempts per game, ninth in the NFL. The last 3 games, They went 3-0. Mason Rudolph came in the last 3 games, saved their season, got to the playoffs. Last 3 games, the Pittsburgh Steelers are averaging 38. 38 rushing attempts per game, by far first in the NFL during that 3-game span. The Buffalo Bills are going to have to tackle well. They're going to have to tackle the ball carrier first. When they make initial contact, they have to tackle, and they're going to have to be able to play winning, sound, fundamental football. The Buffalo Bills, it is imperative against this team, against this quarterback, to stop Najee Harris and Jalen Warren from running the football. It is imperative. Let me get your thoughts. Let me get some thoughts. Hey, my boy Izzy, stop the run. Stop the run. It's imperative. And another great point, I spoke about it earlier, lock up Pat Fairmouth. He only has 32 receptions, 300-something yards, and 2 touchdowns. But when you have a third-string quarterback in the game, like Mason Rudolph, he's going to look to that security blanket. He's going to look to his checkdowns. So Pat Fairmouth, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, these guys that are capable of catching the ball out the backfield, when they do catch the ball, number one, we got to be prepared for it. Right? We have to be aware and prepared for it. We can't act like it's unexpected that the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to do that. I think against the Denver Broncos, it was expected. They have a limited offense. Russell Wilson is a limited quarterback. He's still capable, but he's not as good as he once was. And the Denver Broncos offense was able to be successful throwing them screens and throwing them checkdowns to those checkdown guys. And we should have been prepared for it because we knew that's what they do. Now we know this is what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. We have to be prepared for it. And when we are around and when we make first contact, we have to be able to make the tackle. We have to be able to bring down that ball carrier. So stopping the run is definitely going to be important for our Buffalo Bills. Let me get into my next key on the defensive side of the ball, right? And I think, and this is no disrespect. I'm just calling a spade. I'm just calling it how I see it, right? Make Mason Rudolph look like the backup quarterback that he is. Now, I know he's 3-0. I know he's done a tremendous job. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 28th in points per game throughout the season. Mason Rudolph comes in. They're averaging 27 points per game with Mason Rudolph as quarterback. That's 3 games in that 3-game span, 27 points per game. That's good for 6 in the NFL in that span, 28th overall. They was able to have success because they was able to run the football, stay in football games, stay ahead in football games, not waver from their identity, run the football, and set up the pass because they having success running the football. Set up the play action because they having success running the football. If the Buffalo Bills stop the run and put Mason Rudolph in obvious passing situations, the Buffalo Bills defensive front, Sean McDermott calling plays as a defensive coordinator, can be on the attack and put some pressure on Mason Rudolph and force him into some mistakes. Right now, I believe Mason Rudolph, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in 3 games, averaging about 180 pass yards per game. I think he is comfortable because he is in the elements he's comfortable in. We have to take him out of his comfortable zone. We have to be able to stop the run, pin our ears back, get to Mason Rudolph, lock out the receivers, and tackle the ball carrier and make Mason Rudolph, who is a third-string quarterback. Mason Rudolph is a third-string quarterback. It is unacceptable if a third-string quarterback beats the Buffalo Bills. And if a third-string quarterback does beat the Buffalo Bills do deserve to lose the game, obviously. Make Mason Rudolph beat you on offense. Beat that defense. And I don't think he's cooked. I don't think he's capable. But we'll see what happens, right? But Mason Rudolph, have to lock him up and make him beat us as a Buffalo Bills defensive front, as a Buffalo Bills defensive secondary. Take him out his comfort zone. Make Mason Rudolph look like the backup quarterback that he is. Run back into the comments right quick. Once again, Arich, Hakeem Richards, Built in Buffalo, Tailgate Live. Appreciate everybody for joining the show. Appreciate all the comments. The comments it's been fascinating. I know we all excited for this game. I've been on about 46 minutes right now. Let's go to the final topic. Prediction for the Buffalo Bills. I expect our team, the Buffalo Bills, to win this game. I have it by a score of 27-13, Buffalo Bills over the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is our time. This is our time. This is why we worked hard throughout the season. This is why we got the victory against the Miami Dolphins in their home stadium. This is why we wanted to play for the number 2 seed. We want to play in front of our fans at Highmark Stadium. We want to be in this position that we're in today. Now, we have to be able to take advantage of it. We have to be able to be successful offensively, defensively, special teams. We have to be able to ride our 12th man, and that's the fans, whether they sitting or standing. We have to be able to execute on offense and execute on defense. And I think the Buffalo Bills will today. 27-13 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we move on to the second round against the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Boy, it would be lovely to get Patrick Mahomes in Highmark Stadium. All the times we went to Arrowhead, even though we have success at Arrowhead, we beat them the last 2 times in the regular season at Arrowhead. It would be nice for Patrick Mahomes to have to come to Buffalo for a change, right? And if we get this victory, that will be the game, that will be the expectation, but we can't look ahead. We have to take care of business, and that starts with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Buffalo 27-13 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's your thoughts? Let me get some predictions out here. We get last minute predictions. What you think is going to be the score? Who do you think is going to win? What do you got? Bills versus Steelers. Let me get some comments in here before I get out of here. Izzy, what you got, Izzy? 27-16, Bills over Steelers. Simply, it's the playoffs. Running game, defense, turnovers. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Agree 100%. 31-17, Bills. Great prediction, man. Great prediction. Tony says the key to win is work in the middle of the field without tight ends. I love it. Hey, that's a good one, Tony. You want to be able to work the middle of the field. There's no Gabe Davis today. Gabe Davis will be missed, especially in the blocking scheme of things. But you have Dawson Knox. You have Dalton Kincaid. You have the ability to stretch the field with your receivers. Andy Isabella and Deontay Hardy is up and activated for the Buffalo Bills. So they have a little more speed on this offense than they usually have with Andy and Dante and James Cook and Ty Johnson. So definitely working the middle of the field can be an advantage and will be an advantage for the Buffalo Bills if they can do so. David, 3 times we won in KCA Rich. Hey, touche, David. Appreciate you. Last but not least, my brother Izzy. We've won the last 3 season games at Arrowhead. Love it. Hey, I appreciate everybody. Martin says 34-17, Bills over the Steelers. Hey, man, I like it a lot. This is it, fellas. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second season for our Bills. This is win or go home for our Buffalo Bills. We've been clamoring for a Lombardi trophy. We've been clamoring for getting back to the AFC Championship. We've been clamoring for these things. We've been fans of this Buffalo Bills team throughout the course of the season. And there is no off season, if you want to be technical, because we're riding that wave throughout training camp, throughout OTAs, throughout free agency, throughout the draft. We've endured all those things for this very moment right here. And now is our time. Now is the Buffalo Bills' time. What are we going to do? I'm confident in my team. I love my team. I believe our Buffalo Bills are more than capable of winning this game and hoisting this Lombardi trophy this season. But we have to go out there and prove it. And it starts right now. It starts against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all for watching the Built in Buffalo Tailgate Live pregame show, hosted by yours truly, Arich Hakeem Richards. Once again, if you don't know me, please get to know me. And look out for the postgame show on my brother Kulu, Buffalo Against the World show. Hopefully it's a postgame show recapping the dominance, recapping the victory the Buffalo Bills will have over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tune in for that later on. I believe it comes on 7:30, depending on the game flow of the game. right? So definitely tune into that. Once again, Arich, Hakeem Richens, appreciate everybody for tuning in. And let me hear one time, man, one time, because this is the playoffs, right? The reality is we want to win. The reality is I believe we are a better team. The reality is I believe we are a better roster. But also the reality is this could be the last game for our Buffalo Bills for the season. We hope it's not, but it could be. Let's hope not. Let's take care of business today. Ladies and gentlemen, go Bills.